Cybertron, our home. For generations, it has been a peaceful world, until pride and a lust for power divided us. Now we fight enemies who were once our brothers. Tragic war has ravaged Cybertron.
It is a necessary war to return us to glory.
The Autobots will never sacrifice freedom.
The Decepticons will bring this world to order!
Our defeat would mean the end of everything.
My victory will mark a brilliant new beginning!
One shall stand.
One shall fall.
So, hello everyone, I am Sky Demolisher and welcome to the first part of my playthrough of Transformers War for Cybertron.
Civil war has ravaged Cybertron, homeworld to the Transformers for millions of years. Megatron, leader of the Decepticons, recently discovered an ancient power that will give him the edge to win over the hated Autobots. Called Dark Energon, this power remains locked away in an orbital station under the protection of a Sky Commander named Starscream.
Starscream wouldn't fight with such desperation if the legends weren't true!
Lord Megatron, you're certain it's here?
I am certain, Barricade. And when I find it, the balance of this war with the Autobots will finally tip in my favor. Lord Megatron, stabilizers are failing! Maintain your heading, Brawl. Do not falter.
Sublight engines are offline. Shields at 15%.
Reroute all power to forward guns and thrusters. Full speed ahead.
But sir, that's suicide!
Any further objections? Ram this warship straight into the heart of that station!
To have survived that, Megatron.
The strong survive, the weak perish.
Said in true Decepticon fashion.
The reactor core is failing. Explosion imminent.
Move, Decepticons. Double time.
The core's about to detonate.
Go, go, go!
Hey, watch out! Megatron, this way.
I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. This space station is Decepticon property. Surrender immediately.
Whoever you are, you've traveled a long way just to meet your doom.
Hail, Lord Megatron!
Do not speak unless spoken to.
You just have to love the arrogance of Megatron, don't you?
The honor is all yours.
Admittedly, I think if I was a Decepticon, I'd act exactly the same.
Take out those sentry guns! They're tearing us apart! I hate those sentry guns!
Whoop. Whiffed that one. And that one. So, I think this game was released in... I think it was around 2012. Might have been 2011. So, compared to today's graphics, it's a little dated looking, but it's actually probably one of the best Transformer games ever created.
The welcome wagon.
What a whiff. Spoke too soon there. You gotta love that, that one-shot kill from Megatron's cannon there.
Ambush their ambush.
Very much like his G1 counterpart, which I think in some ways is why this game and the Fall of Cybertron game actually took people by surprise, because earlier Transformer games were not good, like particularly those that got released in the 80s. They were terrible. And then I think the next set of games that came out were the Beast Wars ones, and again those were terrible. And then I think it was Atari brought out a game for Transformers Armada. That was actually not too bad.
Starscream, the ambush is set. They won't make it past us.
I shall hold you to that, soldier.
Yes, sir.
This is almost too easy.
Whoops.
Grenade out! Enemy car approaching! Ready to fire! Alert. Hostiles inbound. Crush them! I'll be right back. The only alternative to my rule is destruction!
Whoops.
Initiating weapon cooling.
Back to the good old fusion cannon.
We await your arrival.
Ah, here we are. Emma.
Megatron! I thought you'd be scrapping by now. Your survival intrigues me.
I shall Surrender your Dark Energon program to me immediately!
Dark Energon.
I love how this Starscream basically followed you as you moved around. And the big hologram, you know, it just suits that grandiose standpoint that Starscream often had in G1. You know, he certainly had that arrogance in Armada as well, but I don't know if I should say spoilers or not. I mean, it's Armada came out, what, a decade ago, if not more. The Starscream in that very much redeemed himself in the not entirely sure what I'm saying. Redeemed himself compared to the Starscream you saw in like Generation 1 and the ghost of Starscream that popped up in Beast Wars. You know, the Starscream in Armada very much ended up becoming a hero, kind of like Dinobot. Now normally you shouldn't be able to clear that that little jump there, but with Megatron's hover ability you can, which is very handy. Just now you get this overshield and then a lovely fall to the ground, which doesn't kill you. No, I'll go for the other one. I think they're the same.
Intruders are here! Call in reinforcements! Decepticons, mount those turrets! We'll cut them down with their own weaponry!
Oh, nothing there. And like it suggests, you can detach the turret if you really want, but that limits the ammunition you get. So if you can, and you end up buying this game, I don't know if you actually still can buy it. You might have to look at the old second-hand shops and stuff to see if there is actually a copy available somewhere. I only learned yesterday that they actually re-released, I think, both this one and its sequel to the Xbox One and PS4 a number of years ago. That wasn't a thing in New Zealand, as far as I'm aware. Which is quite a sad thing. We'll detach it this time. See? He had a limit of 300. Don't need help. Now, anything else? No, there. And again, like I suggested, see with this you can't double jump. So if you use his hover ability, you can hover yourself up there. You're not really meant to drag this kind of weaponry into later stages. It yeah, kind of makes it a bit too easy. But you know, it's what you would expect in the Decepticon campaign, though, isn't it? That if you can in some way cheat, you would somewhat cheat.
Pull back! Pull back!
Area is secured, Megatron.
Excellent.
A very dull look at Cybertron in the distance there. Because if you hadn't picked up, we haven't actually started on Cybertron. We're on a an Energon station above it. And in this particular area, you can kill all of the Autobot prisoners down there. There was an achievement for it. I just can't be bothered doing it myself.
My name is Jetfire. I'm not here to fight. That makes one of us. Speak your piece quickly.
And Jetfire is Australian. Well, kind of Australian, which I think is meant to tie into the Cybertron TV series, where I'm pretty sure he was Australian, at least for the English version of it. That's Barricade. If you haven't figured it, like, I probably don't need to point it out, because if you know who it is, you know that. Oh.
Soundwave, report.
We have taken control of this portion of the station and established your base of operations. Scans indicate that Starscream has locked down all logical routes to the Dark Energon reactor.
And we're fresh out of Star Cruisers to tunnel our way.
Quiet. There must be another access point. We have to reach the station's next pod.
Megatron, I have located a nearby data metric center to reveal any alternate means of entry to the next pod. Advanced teams have already been set to clear your path.
So
We have no time to waste.
I'll try not to talk during cutscenes like that, because I think it will help you enjoy the story.
Another instrument of my wrath.
Particularly if you're not going to get around to playing this yourself. So, like I was saying, if you haven't figured out Barricade's voice, which I would say most people have, it's Steve Bloom, the guy that did the voice for Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. I don't know if it's just me. It might be other people, but I think the first time you hear Steve Bloom's voice, you always visualize whatever character he's playing as whoever you first saw him as. So for me, Barricade sort of strikes me as a bit Spike Spiegel, even though he's not. I think in later series like Prime, I believe he was the voice actor for Shockwave. And that, whereas I'm pretty sure the original voice actor was Corey Burton in, you know, the 1980s, or 1984 till 1987, I think, for Generation 1. The intro movie to this, you know, that opening bit with the voiceover, you'll probably pick up that was Peter Cullen, the original Optimus Prime. Oop. 12 left. Oh. I don't know. So they did manage to pick up some voice actors that are from like the original TV series. Of course, Megatron isn't voiced by Frank Welker, and I don't think Frank Welker can really do the same voice for Megatron anymore. You know, whereas Peter Cullen, you know, has actually managed to sustain his voice as Optimus quite well. over the decades. I mean, think about it. It's what? Excuse me. 84. It's what? 30 years on now. Oh, what? Or was it 34 years since the original Transformers was released? Oh, that's not going to do anything. I appear to be stuck within the bridge. I don't think the energon you collect in this actually has any use. Well, not, I don't remember it having any use in this game. In the next game it does. You can upgrade your weapons and you can buy new weapons, buy ammo, all that sort of stuff. It I don't want to say outlets because it sounds like you're buying them from stores, but it's kind of like pop-up stores. Yeah, everyone's dead.
Soundwave, we've located the holo map. I'm sending the data to you now.
Megatron! You may have gotten this far, but...
Starscream, this acrimony is needless.
See, sometimes these things get a bit more solid, so it's quite funny, you know, because they're meant to be holograms. You can see him in this one, but here he is over there.
And you to yours, if you agree to serve me.
You're a fool! No one can control Dark Energon! Take this!
Seem to be good at finding those gaps between people. Or between Autobots, I should say. I don't think there's anything hidden in these ones. There were pickups in this, so that like Decepticon and Autobot insignias that you could break along the way, and they go towards one of the achievements. I haven't got that achievement, I don't think.
Excellent! Decepticons, lock this room down and await our return.
Yeah. I probably should have said earlier that I don't know if it's still working or not, but this game had a like an online co-op. The other week it was still working. I don't know if it still works now. But it was quite a handy mode. Because it's, you know, me, Brawl and Barricade in this, or Megatron, Barricade and Brawl I should say, not me, since I'm not a giant transformer, and if I was, well, I'd undoubtedly be your overlord, not, you know, not somebody sitting on YouTube. I think secretly we all have dreams of domination, whether it's this galaxy or another, you know. shield style. So there was a 3-player one, online co-op for this. So if you had 2 other friends, you could play with one being Brawl and one being Barricade. And if you only had one other person to play the co-op, then they could choose one of the other characters, and the other one would be controlled by an AI. And from what I remember, the AI I should say the AI isn't actually that bad in this. I think like the original Gears of War had pretty good artificial intelligence for your co-op people, namely like Dom. But the remaster of that came out a couple of years ago for the Xbox One. Yeah, the AI in it took a horrible turn, and I spent most of the campaign saving the others, as opposed to having them work with me during the game, which for the most part it's not too annoying in Gears of War, but it is when you're like up against a number of boomers and your co-op mate is, AI controlled, and he decides that he's going to do something stupid, like die constantly. Man. Just like, there we go. So you'd spend a lot of time picking them up, and then they'd, get up, and they'd die again straight away. Okay. Obviously not quite clear enough to destroy these things. It's kind of unfortunate because, it certainly eats up the ammo when you miss things. And you don't want to fall into it because spinning blades, you'll die.
This place is pretty active to be thousands of years old.
So yeah, the AI control for your squad mates in this is actually pretty good. I don't believe there's any, reason to pick up other characters. Other than, I think, like in the Autobot campaign, you can actually pick up downed people. Oh, missed that one. It's kind of a weird concept in this, but also kind of an interesting concept that they would make the weapons things that are actually attached to your limbs. So like Megatron's fusion cannon was always at the side of his arm, and in this it's still the side of the arm. But for like the sniper rifle, notice that it's actually like taken the place of the lower arm. A bit like at the start of the cartoon, Shockwave actually has 2 hands, and I'm pretty sure one of those hands would slip back to reveal his gun hand, which of course in which I think it's by the end of like the first episode, he's starts to be constantly drawn as if he only has one hand, even though he started out with two. I can't remember what these ones are called, but the annoying, what I need to hit is that thing on their backpack. And then of course once they start ticking, they're on their way to blowing up. Very handy. And you gotta watch it running through here. Because all those things do a little bit of damage, but as long as you don't lose that entire square of health, you regenerate it. And these games were always pretty good for spreading out the health side of things. The ammo sort of hit and miss. In some spots there's more than enough, and you know, like I really haven't had to pick up a hell of a lot of ammo along the way, which is a very handy aspect of the game, because I think one of those things that annoys me with other games is that you tend to run out of ammunition and then you're spending a lot of time looking for ammunition, and there's nothing in the way of an ammo drop or, you know, ammo crates to refill.
Strong are worthy of such a weapon barricade. I am the strongest. And do not
Then again, it's handy to have. I think for these guys it's only 3 weapons, so Megatron's got his fusion cannon, the Energon pistol, so it's like a sniper rifle, and then he has his tank cannon. Any ammo you pick up will reload all of those weapons, but of course if they're not fully cleared out,
Cybertron.
they don't reload.
Flyers inbound. Decepticons cannot be stopped. And all who oppose me be destroyed.
Horrible whiffage there. Five shots left.
The damage looks
See?
spend this way for a good
All of
while.
those reloaded
No
weapons.
weapon I know of could have done this. I don't care what did it. Find a way across.
The hollow map indicates no damage to this area.
Yes, this is unexpected. The entire
And there are
area
grenades
lies in
too.
shambles. They're sending in the flyers. Just need a moment.
I do enjoy the choice of colours in this. You know, that it's not bright, but it's not dark. You know, it's sort of what you would expect Cybertron to look like, or you know, Cybertronian architecture to look like, and not, you know, like Bayformers style of Transformers. Oh. Well, isn't that interesting? Those two have glitched themselves there. So, barricades just sort of floating in nothing. They should catch up though. There's more ammo in front of us. So that's good.
Touching down.
No. No, the weapon crate. Oh yeah. Neutron assault rifle. I kind of feel like I was on a tangent before, talking about something, and now I've like just stopped talking about it. I have a horrible habit of doing that, so please excuse me if I start doing that. Just bring it to my attention in the comments if I do start talking about something and then I stop talking about it, as if I'm going to continue talking, but I don't. What a bad time to need to reload. Oh, more snipers. Here we go.
Enemy car approaching! Ready to fire!
God damn it.
Firing grenade! Bring it on!
Bad place to look. Oh my god. A little stuck there. Always pays to turn the camera to see what you're actually jumping on. Oh. And ones like this, they're explosive. Explosive. So don't shoot or hit those up close. Unlike the ones that glow orange, which have like the energon currency type stuff. Which yeah, I don't remember what they do anymore. There we go. There's that one. What's the shot? What's the shot? Oh, nope, don't need to worry about him. Huh. Here we go. Whiff, whiff, whiff. Change to tank. No more whiff. So, I don't think there is actually an explanation in game in full as to what happened here. Other than there's some sort of accident with Dark Energon at some point. Never goes further than that. It's just, there was an accident. This is what happens. And although this game isn't like a prequel or something that came before the Generation 1 series, it sort of it tries to tie into it. It was the idea at the time to create sort of like a proper beginning and history for Transformers that sort of united it on all fronts. You know, because previously like Generation 1 and Beast Wars were linked, although we didn't know that Beast Wars was linked until I think it's the end of the first, no, actually I think it's the end of the second season that we get like confirmation that it's linked to Generation 1.
No one has ever survived to reach this place.
You shall soon learn, Starscream. I decide what is possible and what isn't.
Guards, hold him off while I destroy the last of the Dark Energon remnants.
So yeah, their idea was that they would create like a proper continuity to explain everything, because it was a bit of a mess to begin with. You know, like the cartoon didn't link up with the comics, and I actually think the comic that they made for the movie follows like an earlier draft for the movie, so it's not entirely right.
I need more time to initiate the sequence.
Let Starscream succeed. Do you hear me? I won't allow it.
So this sort of tied in just a little bit better with I think it might have been Dreamwave comics back then when this got released. I think it was Dreamwave before they sort of, you know, went under. And the like the IP from Hasbro got taken over by IDW, who I think still has it now. Like the original comics were made by Marvel. Not a good time to need ammo. Oh, and I'm now out of ammo. So, at least I can pinch that displacer. And they, you know, they did well in this to keep characters pretty much to what they were like in the original cartoon. You know, like Megatron is quite maniacal. You know, it's not really a good idea to try to say big words when you're trying to concentrate on something. Everything slows down and part of you's like, what am I talking about?
You arrogant fool! No one has ever survived direct contact! What? This isn't possible. No. No one can control Dark Energon. It dominates and destroys everything it touches.
I am the Dominator. I am the Destroyer. I am Megatron.
All hail Megatron.
Your birthright. I can feel the power. It's amazing. Now, I shall deal with Starscream.
So I think this game, when it came out, was set up to somewhat tie in to Transformers Prime. I think it was Prime. And then that sort of went by the wayside, so some things didn't, like, you know, line up anymore. Still, this game and the one that follows it.
Dark Energon is mine to command. Through my will alone shall Cybertron be restored.
It's too unstable, Megatron. Using that power, you're endangering our entire world.
Teach me, Megatron. Teach me to wield Dark Energon the way you do, and I will serve you.
And what could you possibly offer me that I cannot simply take?
The supply of Dark Energon aboard this station is nearly exhausted. I know how to manufacture more. There was once an Energon bridge that fed this station directly. I know how to reconnect it.
Traitor! Zeta Prime will hear about this!
The fall of Starscream.
Shall I send Thundercracker and Skywarp to retrieve him? Lord Megatron?
No. I want the Autobots' leader to know his doom approaches. Once we have this station online, nothing can stop me. Now go. Find this Energon bridge and reactivate it for your new master.
And that gave you the core series of Seekers. And with that, that is the end of the first part of this game. I'm pretty sure I was about to say something before that that cutscene. Like I said earlier, I have a tendency to do that. I've completely forgotten what I was going to talk about. So yeah, I'll pick it up the next time maybe. So I hope that you've enjoyed this first part of War for Cybertron. If you have, please like and maybe subscribe. Perhaps share it out with your friends if you really like to. And I will see you for the next part, which will be Fuel of War. Cheers.